Aloha everyone, Robert Ibanez Kili Kanakaoli. Welcome to Aloha News Network. Today we have a prominent individual in the sovereignty movement and a person I well respect in the community. Especially today we're struggling for our freedom to restore the Hawaiian Kingdom. Today we have Mr. Leon Siu. He's the acting foreign minister of his organization, and welcome.
Mahalo.
Leon.
Mahalo.
Thank you for
Good to be here.
Congratulations for your you got a Nobel Prize.
Well, actually, I was nominated.
Nominated, yeah.
Along with a couple of 300 people.
Explain more about that.
Yeah. Okay. The Nobel Peace Prize. When Alfred Nobel set up a prize, he was the inventor of dynamite. Right?
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And that's so he got all this. He gets all these residuals for his
dynamite,
his patent of dynamite.
Nobel,
Yeah. He decided to create this prize. So for peace, the Nobel Peace Prize is the one the most known. But there's literature, music, all these different. I was nominated for some of the other work that I've been doing on the international level, not necessarily for the Hawaiian Kingdom, but it's related to the Hawaiian Kingdom. And what it is, I published a work with a friend of mine who's a Turkish researcher and person. He lives in Geneva. And so we got together and we published this piece on West Papua and their struggle for independence. Because it actually has a bearing to ours. And West Papua right now is one of the hottest items out there. And so we didn't do it because of that, but we did it because there's a clear example there of what the United Nations could be doing that actually would have a bearing on our situation too. So we published this work about West Papua, pointing out how the United Nations can actually handle this in a very peaceful manner. That technically they already have made all the decisions. All they have to do is implement. And West Papua would be an independent country. You know,
nothing's have moved in the
well, they've not moved because of the resistance by Indonesia. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
And so in a way it's similar to Hawaii. See, we have all the laws on our side. But the U.S. is putting up a resistance. And so anyway, so we published this work and it got noticed and all that, and so we got nominated by somebody for the Peace Prize.
I think it's great that we all are contributing in our own ways, and because of the huge giant that we're up against, Goliath, if you will. But it can fall.
Yes.
And I can see it. In my personal view, before I die, I know I can feel it. That it's happening now.
Yeah.
Because
I'm very, very optimistic because of their situation, and secondly because conditions in the world, even though they may look like they're really bad at this point, but actually there's a lot of good things. One is that there's more countries now in the world that had to struggle through all kinds of different problems in order to gain their independence. So we have a lot of people who actually empathize with us. A lot of countries, so that's really good. It's different now than it was, say, 50 years ago. And there's also a stronger desire to settle things peacefully rather than through. And we have this message of aloha. One of the greatest things is that Hawaii has a favorable image in the world. And that people sense aloha. I mean, they understand it. And
love.
And they don't know what it's about or anything, but they just basically say Hawaii's real special. And so we have already on our side, the world's population will be on our side. If they find out we've been wronged,
Oh, yeah.
etc.
Yeah, you
And that
see it.
and that
That's
we
what I've
want to
seen.
settle this in a peaceful
Yes,
way
Yeah.
with Aloha, so that
With
everyone
Aloha.
benefits. you know.
everyone benefits.
Yeah, not just us,
Yeah.
but the United States and
Right.
the whole world. If we can do this, and I think the world really sees that we're handling this in a different way, so that's really a plus on our side.
I think
And the U.S. is
you're right.
the only obstacle, but not so much an obstacle. But I think our main project or our main task is to provide the U.S. a graceful way that they can get out of this.
No, can you explain as to what your role, you see a role in the coming future?
Right. Okay. So I'll explain a little bit of what my role has been, because I've been representing the people in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and foreign affairs is really important because we have to maintain a presence in the international level. Because this is one of the problems we've had, is that people see us not as an international player or as an international entity, but as a part of the United States, a state of the United States. So we get relegated off the stage, so to speak, onto the side. But the idea is to keep our profile as a sovereign nation and as a people and as a contributing country on the world stage. And so that's what I've been doing. I've just been showing up at lots of the conferences and the meetings of the UN and the European Union and other the Melanesian Spearhead Group, Pacific Islands Forum, places like that. And just basically being there and participating, talking story with them. And at the same time sharing our story if they want to hear about it.
Yes.
So I've been doing that. Actually, been the Minister of Foreign Affairs for about 18 years now. But it's been only in the last 10 years that we've had a much more focused representation of the kingdom and our independence movement. Prior to that, it was human rights, decolonization, kind of rights within the Human Rights Council and things like that. So I still attend the Human Rights Council, but our story is now a little bit different. We're not actually after indigenous rights. We're actually a national right.
Right.
Yeah. So that is beginning to sink in.
I think that's crucial, because I was confused as for, indigenous rights.
Yeah.
And, to me, I'm not indigenous. I'm,
Oh, you both.
Maoli.
Both. But the issue really is that of being national.
Yeah. So I'm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah, and so we've been doing that, and the idea is to also to understand what it is that how the UN operates, and I like to say the UN is actually a club, a country club, and what this country club means is that people belong to it for their own reasons, for their purposes, and it's mostly to gain some kind of advantage or some kind of benefit for themselves, not the people, but for their countries that they represent.
Right.
To stay in the mix, to be able to protect themselves if there's any things going on, or also to contribute to advancing things. So as a result, the primary purpose for each diplomat, each representative who goes to the UN is for his own country.
Right.
That is,
Right.
He's there to protect his country, to defend his country against any kind of incursion,
Right.
or to somehow benefit his country.
Right.
And so we have to keep that in mind, that even though our case could be clearly a sense of justice and of righteousness and to set things right.
Right.
That's not how things naturally function. It could be a country could look at us and say, okay, I know that your cause is just and you should be an independent country, but if I do this, how is that going to affect my people back home? Is there going to be an economic sanctions against my country because the U.S. thinks that we're doing wrong? Right. And so it's a lot more complicated.
It is.
So it's not as straightforward. However, it also gives us a clue as to what we can do. And one is we don't ask them to have to compromise their own values and their own objectives for the country. We find ways that we can work together, and we basically have found things that they can do that doesn't threaten themselves, but will still advance our cause. So a couple of years ago, Pakistan actually opened the door by changing the concept, the fact that we're part of the United States, but putting us more into, this is an international issue. It's between the Hawaiian Kingdom and the United States. And so they raised a question. The question was so innocuous, it didn't even mean anything, but it did basically say, we think the discussion should be on an international level between the Hawaiian and the U.S. And by doing so, it basically broke the ice. And so all these other countries are now talking about us on the basis of being in a realm of international law, not under domestic law. And they're beginning to offer suggestions as what we might be able to do, what they might be able to do to help us. So the discussion is going on really well.
That's good. I think it's crucial that we work with these countries to find out what's best for them. And, because of the situation. And I see it's only going to get better once we start moving forward. So this last time I was in Geneva, I gave a talk at a side panel. I was on a panel with 3 experts. There was myself, and there was a guy named Alfred Desaias, who's a UN lawyer, and then another person who is an international lawyer, Curtis Dobler. And my talk, I started out with, there's this saying that said, and actually I learned it from Kalei Koa, who quotes this South African activist, and basically says, the best weapon of the oppressor is the minds of the oppressed. And I'm really proud about the younger generation. The younger generation, they're very akamai.
Well, one thing has been the values, the Hawaiian values through the olelo and all that, and the hula, that has actually implanted into our young people a heart for being Hawaiian. And that's going to make a whole difference in how we approach governing ourselves. If you govern with the heart of a Hawaiian, it's going to be very different than governing with a heart of greed and so I have every confidence that this is going to happen. We just continue.
But thank you so much, Leon. I appreciate what you've done over the years, and I'm glad we did this interview, and I'm sure we're going to do more. Okay. But thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Hopefully you folks enjoyed today's program on Aloha News Network. We got more things that we want to showcase and share with you in the near future, and I'm sure we're going to see Mr. Leon Siu again, the acting foreign minister of the Kingdom of Hawaii. Thank you all for joining us. Aloha.